I'll talk about myself. Let me tell you about myself. I was born in Perth, and I was the last of 5 kids. I think Mum and Dad thought they were just wrestling. Anyway, I always did say I was a mistake, but I stopped saying that. I went to school in what's called Armidale High School, which is one of the roughest schools in Perth, I think, in the suburbs. Left school grade 10, and went and did a trade as a carpenter originally, or eventually. Times were pretty tough, and so when the economic or the building industry was pretty quiet then, so my dad at that time was a concreter, so I used to go and do concreting with him when I didn't have any work with my apprentice boss. He put me off at the end of year 3 of my apprenticeship because the times were tough then, so I put myself through my last year of my apprenticeship, so I had to find myself a job. And in those days you had block 4-week blocks of tech college back then. One was in the beginning of the year, one was the end of the year. So I had to finance myself through that to eventually get my trade papers. And it's funny, in all these years I've never ever been asked for on the qualified trades. Trades are only set one. Job I went and did, and they asked to see my indentures, so I don't know why that was. But so I started my own business. So I got out of the trade, started my own business in concreting. When I was 20...
You're a carpenter, so you started a concreting business.
I had enough. Once I got out of my trade, I had enough, so my man was a concreter, so...
Nothing's changed then.
They got silicone in Joseph.
Your strategic thinking is the same as it was 30 years ago.
I know, it's a trend there.
You started business consultancy, so you started a coffee shop.
So I grew a business there. I was about 22, I think, 23, started my own business, and then combined the both, concreting and carpentry. Left Perth in '89, moved to Queensland, went to Warwick of all places.
Why?
Why? That's a good question.
Because it's perfect here.
No, well, series of personal events. I thought, I think it's time to move.
You look it up.
And my
Parole, things like that.
Dave Wallis is actually my name I took on. No, I just thought it's time to move. Well, if you really want to know, I had a big bust up with my missus, and then we got back together and thought, let's start a new life. I hope it's not going to go.
It's going on YouTube tonight.
So I moved to Warwick, and of course, not having the internet or anything then, it's showing my age. I thought, and my brother-in-law lived there, and he said, come to Warwick's great, you know, and I went to Warwick. It was like, whoa. So it was a bit of a culture shock. Lived there for 10 years in the industry, and things sort of changed until my third son was born back in 1990, and I didn't know he was deaf until he was nearly 3. So I just thought I had a real wild child of a son, which he was, and then. And that's how I got into the path of down the disability track. So I learned sign language for him, which his anger and frustration went from being 10 right down to 5 or 6, and then eventually as he picked up sign language, he went away. So it was a bit of an interesting journey in those few years, and I started working for what was then known as Queensland Deaf Society in Toowoomba, so I was doing the commute back and forwards with Warwick, so I was, part of the time I was renovating and doing concreting, and when the work came up I used to go to Toowoomba and do interpreting, and eventually that became full-time, and eventually I took over, the regional manager left, and I took over as a manager.
So you were manager of the Queensland Deaf Society here in Toowoomba?
In Toowoomba, yeah. And then, so at that stage it was just me and a casual interpreter, and we grew that business to about 8 staff. We had 3-4 interpreters. We did employment and community work, a whole range of things. Because I suppose I had a son I was trying to change, that was definitely trying to change the world. We put a lot of emotional investment into it, got burnt out a bit, and decided it was time to have a break, and I went to mainstream employment. Didn't really like that very much, and then I eventually moved to Personal West as an employment consultant. And
Dave, tell me what you mean by mainstream employment.
Just the mainstream job network they were called back then, where mainstream people are unemployed used to come and used to try and coach them into a job. So it was very different to work with people with disabilities. People with disabilities really wanted to get into work, and I don't want to tie everybody the same brush, but a lot of people who were unemployed were quite difficult to get into work. It's actually quite interesting. So yeah, I started Personal West just 11 years ago, and ended up being the manager there until last year, where Steve was on the board and we decided to amalgamate, and I decided to go up my own just over 1 year ago in October as a business growth consultant. Started another business. That's been going good. I don't know what else. That's all I've got to say, really.
That's all you've got to say. Tell us about a little thing like someone acknowledging you in the last couple of weeks for some incredible things you did. Try telling us about that.
What, the spinal injuries?
Yeah, that could be it.
The spinal injuries hold what's called the Champions Award, and they go around to each region, regional council, and there's I think 6 or 7 nominations, and a lot of it's around innovative. Someone's been innovative with access for people with disabilities, or have set up a business or some sort of device. I don't know. I can't think of all the divisions. One's an outstanding individual, and I got nominated for that for the regional council here. And
So it was the council that nominated you?
I'm not sure, but the council's involved, and the spinal injuries, and I think the council, look at who's doing work in the community. So I got awarded outstanding individual for the work I do in the community.
Is that based on all the work you've done at Bounce?
They did mention Bounce. They mentioned sign language, because sign language interpreter, and I teach sign language classes. I think since October I've probably put over 100 people through those classes, and just the work that I do in the community.
I know you've said a couple of times before, could you just give us a thumbnail sketch of the philosophy of Bounce?
Philosophy is a social enterprise. Basically, it's a business that's non-government funded, and its main objective is to create as many jobs for people of either disadvantaged, marginalised, or people with disability. And so its ethos is to bring them into the workforce, create some sort of work experience or work knowledge, and then eventually move them off to other jobs. So,
The ABC did a very good piece on it. They interviewed the young lady who's now become the partner, and I thought that was a very illuminating discussion. She obviously has benefited a lot from not being able to get up in the morning and drinking too much and drugs and what have you, to now being a manager, and she's really quite enthusiastic about being a manager.
Yeah, because 3 years ago she couldn't get out of bed. She had mental health diagnosis, and originally the 2 boys that started Bounce, Jake and Dan Stewart, they used to own, well, they still do, the Metro Cafe. I think they call it Orchard now. And they approached myself and the director of the clubhouse and said, look, we want to start another cafe, but we want to do something a bit of social good. I actually, to be honest, I'd never heard of a social enterprise before then. I'd set up a social enterprise unbeknownst to me. So we helped them set it up and provided clients and people to fit their staff. And then they opened up a Bounce in the USQ, and then they opened up, because the USQ brought out Ipswich campus, and they opened up a Bounce there. They just actually disclosed that one. And then they decided to sell the Bounce little hole in the wall, and it was offered to Hayley at first, but she was nervous about going into a business because she never had any business background. And I was interested in it because it's a social enterprise. So I talked to her, I said, what do you want to do? Because I didn't want to sort of go in and cut her grass. And so she said, look, she actually suggested why don't we go partners? You do the business and she does the coffee or the running of the place. And we just swap skills. So she went from not being able to work to working there, and then eventually managing the little hole in the wall, and our business partner.
And the critical thing with that is, of course, there's no government funding, so it shows what self-help and initiative can actually achieve.
Social enterprise, I think, is the way of the future. I think too many services, they've got to start thinking outside the box, and if you can get a business that can think socially, well then you're not. Government funding, I've been involved with it for years, and it's so prescriptive and very tightly guidelined. You can't think outside the box.
How many labourers would you have found jobs for, like say, in the last, well, since the disability centre being involved?
I think with personal race for a while they were averaging, because we grew just due to our funding, the change in funding, we went from a service that could only service 100 clients, and then with the change in funding I could see the opportunity to grow the service, and we actually went to almost 300 clients. So there was a big growth spurt there around 2010. But on average, when we were larger, there was probably anywhere up to 100 clients a year that we put in the work.
With bounce?
Oh, bounce. I want to probably about 6 so far, 6 or 7. So we had one guy who was very shy, and because it's right on the street, you have to say g'day to people. He couldn't look anybody in the eye, and in the end he was saying g'day to everywhere on the street and serving coffee. I'll never forget when the bounce first opened, it was free coffee. I think we sold about 400, well, they sold about 400 cups of coffee, and the young guy that I'm talking about had to deliver coffee to, I think it was Shine Wallis. Shine was on Kitchener Street, and they had an office in the old AMP building, I think. And probably, mate, he walked all the way around to Kitchener Street. I wonder why he's gone there so long. You can't, I went to the wrong place. No.
Mate, I think also you forgot to mention the Ability Enterprise, which is quite successful at the moment, that you were a backbone of Kitty.
Oh, okay, yes.
Tell us that story. Yeah.
Ability Enterprise is, when I was working for Personal West, when you're trying to place people with disabilities in the mainstream work, it's very hard with businesses, they've got all sorts of concerns, and I thought what I need is a business that you could set up and get a contract and then start putting people with disabilities and really create a social enterprise. So Mark was on the board, I think you were the chair at that time, and the board of Personal West agreed, and I set up a legal entity separate to Personal West called Ability Enterprise. It was a little bit by guarantee. And so the structure was just sitting there, and then along come an open tender through the Toowoomba Regional Council to man all their 13 waste management sites. So where you pull in, either give them money or tell you what you've got on. Every one of those gatehouses, they're called, is manned by someone who's got a disability, long-term unemployed. Not nearly everyone. So we tendered for it, and we actually got it. And the council obviously were a bit reserved when they found out Ability Enterprises really had no trading background and was a social enterprise. But I managed to get around that. But we only had that tender went for 2 years, and now it meant they turned over 1.5 mil a year, and they employ, I think, around 50 to 60 people, and 60% of those people were either long-term unemployed, people with disabilities, and now. They did do research around how that reduced the whole social welfare reliance, just for our community. It was quite colossal, but that's still going. Obviously, I'm not involved. I couldn't be involved on paper with that business because of our funding guidelines. That would be seen as, I don't know if they got a term for it. Conflict of interest. In fact, the department didn't really like it because we were actually producing so many jobs through this business. They went through us quite diligently.
So hang on, so what you're saying is the department, when they found out that you'd done something good and were getting people employed, decided it was time to audit?
Because it went against the so-called
Their model.
Their model of what
Didn't
a
sit
job
within
is.
their model.
So it's funny, the department who funds us are not in favour of social enterprise because they look at it as it's like a sheltered workshop, but it's not. It's actually, so you blend mainstream people with people with disabilities, so it's real work, it's a real business, pays real wages. Yet there's other parts of the government who are putting money into social enterprises. So I do think that's a non-funded government business. It's just a business like anybody else.
So how many of them have we got in Toowoomba at the moment? And what do you see as something that's that's standing out needs to be done?
Well, I know there's a lot of activity around the social enterprise in Toowoomba, but there's also some employers that are...
Hang on, was that I don't think there's a lot of activity?
No, there is a lot of activity going on. Toowoomba's quite a leader when it comes to stuff like this. And just to give you an example of a business that just wants to do good, Barry O'Sullivan, who runs Newlands Civil and Construction. I don't know if you know who they are. Now, Barry's dad, Barry Senior, is the state treasurer, I think. That family are very philanthropic. They do a lot of work behind the scenes in the community. I mean, I met with Barry last week, and they're talking about moving their office into town, and he wants to set up a coffee shop, a function centre, and a commercial kitchen that will employ people with disabilities. And and he does that off his own bat because he says it makes sense, for the community. I mean, in his own business, they run quite a large construction and civil business. His own ethos for his business that every 10 people he employs, one has to have a disability, and he walks the walk. So in Toowoomba, there's a lot going on, I suppose, and we don't hear about it.
Okay, so you see a lot of that. Would you say that's normal around the country, or is it?
I think there's pockets of what's going on. I think it could be done a lot more. I mean, to give an example of social enterprise, there was a business in Perth, well, it's a mining business in Alcoa, and part of their production of whatever they were doing, I can't remember what it was, a disability employment service come in and said, can we take that part of production and we staff it and you pay us per product? And they said, yep, here you go, that's yours, you've got to man it, but at the end of the week we've got to have 500 widgets and whatever, and they went in and actually formed, it was like a social enterprise within a business. So there's lots of scopes around how businesses can obviously the bottom line is you've got to make money.
And with giving back to the community, can you just mention about the prepaid coffees accounts and how people can get involved?
So we do what's called suspended coffees. Suspended coffees is a concept that's been posed just after the war, where people who are down there people could pay it forward for another person for a coffee. So it's like the pay it forward principle. And so we do that, and every 2 or 3 months we give, I think last time we gave 50 free coffee vouchers to Mercy Family Services, the base soup kitchen, and it's not uncommon for us to someone come up and just say, "Here's $10. I'll pay for $10 worth of coffees for the next person." We've extended that a little bit because we actually got quite a list of. We're right down to keep a record of it. And I said to the staff, we are, and it's natural, we tend to be judgmental, because we had an experience. I'll just tell you the experience where a guy came up. He was a bit down and out and asked, "Can I have a free coffee?" Because we've got to spend coffees. And I'm not bagging Harley, but I was on shift that day and she said no. Anyway, so I thought, okay. Then he went next door to the Crazy Goat Cafe and got a coffee and didn't pay for it. So it ended up in an argument. And it ended up so bad, I wasn't there, I was off delivering coffees, that the lady owns the Crazy Goat, her boyfriend was there, ended up in a fight and this guy was punched in the head. Police came, he took off. And I said to Hardy, we do suspend the coffees, there's no skin off the nose just to give him a coffee. And I said that would have changed his day because, that was reinforcing to him that the world's against him basically. Yeah. So now our staff said if someone comes up for a free coffee, just give it to them.
Shall we?
Because I know who you are. Yeah. So anyway, that's suspended coffees. And I've noticed now a few other coffee shops are doing it. Runnerbur's is doing. There's a coffee shop in the Harvey Norman Centre. It's opened up again, and apparently they're doing the same thing, which is it's good.
You have to see what they charge for coffee. Went there the other day. They can afford to.
Yeah, that's actually run by Chris Thomas, who used to be here. Yeah. Well, his partner, his wife, I don't know if it was married or not, actually runs that. Chris Thomas used to be a computer.
Oh, baking, yeah.
Dream machine. Yeah, then we're opening up a shop at Westridge.
The other benefit of suspended coffees is social inclusion. I'm a big advocate of social inclusion, and really, the fact that someone probably wouldn't go out and have or couldn't afford to go out and have a coffee, we all take it for granted. Some, they can actually order a coffee, get it, be on the street with everybody.
What time is Bounce open?
7:30 to about 2 at the moment, but we are looking at extending our hours because of the bit out the back. Yeah, so they're probably
I go out and use that was from about 2:30 onwards, and it's almost closed.
yeah. Well, usually in history it's been absolutely dead from that time on. So. But we're looking, because we've got the space now, we're looking at probably opening up a bit later.
So where to from here, Dave?
Where to from here? Well, expanding Bounce, because you can only go so far with a hole in the wall. So it's a bit of a tight budget, but we're obviously taking that step out into an expanded section. I like the idea of having a garden there. We just sort of promote it as this little secret garden in the CBD. Continue to, I'm getting quite a lot of work in my own business with other non-for-profit businesses and asking for anywhere from business plans to operational plans to policies. So yeah, it's just continue on next year. Expand the sign language classes next year.
So you'll have a level 2?
Yeah, I've actually already started a sort of a next intermediate group. But next year I've got to get down and work out a schedule for all my classes and continue on. And I must admit, I appreciate back scratches. It's good. Sometimes you're out there slogging away and you come to the breakfast in the morning, you have everybody and you have a laugh, but you talk with other business owners and you, I don't know, I just found it great, especially if you're having a bad day or a bad week. I just find back scratches good. No matter, irrespective of what they say about